Hey y'all, I'm Brandon. I know most of you, it looks like, and I'm very excited to talk about this novel, to facilitate this novel. Um, I went to the new school. I graduated from the new school, and I studied creative writing and Black American history. And like one of the first things they teach you is write what you know, right? And I was wondering to kind of start the conversation off, especially with this book, in the first like 21 pages, there's this heightened sense of pressure to be married and married off and out of this house, as we say in Michigan, right? As my mother would say. It's a wonder I'm ever gonna get you married off and out of this house. That's a Midwestern term. And that is definitely kind of what's going on right in these first pages here. What do y'all think? And you don't have to raise your hand, you can kind of just tap in whenever you want. What do y'all think are some of the things that make marriage such a celebration, right? That it's like this deserved, deeply desired event. What do y'all think, like, especially considering, not for nothing, I know a lot of people that have been divorced, young people, young divorces. What do y'all think, like some of the things that make marriage such a hopeful celebration?
I think it's more kind of like the transition from being a girl to a woman in certain cultures. Um, Especially in the novel, it seems as though that it's like her rite of passage into womanhood.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind just really quickly saying your name out loud?
Oh, Obi.
Obi?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was easy. Okay. There's a lot more letters there, right? Okay, so do y'all agree with Obi? Do y'all think it's a passage, right, from girlhood to womanhood? Because to me, I agree with you in one sense. In the other sense, you know what I see? I see of it more as a way out, as a way for everybody to transition,
Mm-hmm.
not just the girl to the woman, but the poor family to the better off family. What do y'all think about that?
I think that definitely was the case with the mother because it seemed like she was really just trying to push off Anna to Juan with trying to fulfill her own hopes and dreams of like coming to America and knowing not knowing really the fate of the land that they have and what's gonna happen. So she kind of wanted to like secure the bag and was like, all right, you're you're a child bride and this is what it's gonna be. And she was the one, I think, when you juxtapose her to Teresa, she was the one who was more like malleable, like where Teresa really wouldn't fold.
Fascinating. Thank you, Willie.
And let me mute myself. Sorry.
Oh
And
no, go ahead.
I
I
just,
know from. Go
Oh
ahead,
no.
Obi.
I'm sorry. In the last participant who mentioned, it just kind of reminded me of how marriage is perceived when outside of the Western world, and especially when women who don't live in the Western world are seeking to enter the Western world without really knowing much about it. So it's almost like, yes, marriage is considered as like this form of escape, this form of allowing a girl to escape. But then when you are in the Western world, marriage takes on a completely different um, kind of idea, rather than it does outside of the Western world. So I was just kind of piggybacking off of what the last participant said.
I kind of agree with with what both of them said. I have a couple of friends, they're from Dominican Republic, and she was explaining to me that a lot of the girls that live in Dominican Republic, they end up meeting American men who come to the Dominican Republic, and their hope is to marry them to get citizenship in the United States. And then once they get here, a lot of those women divorce those men, and then they end up in the court system for child support. A lot of them have babies, and the babies end up getting citizenship. So some women do it for citizenship.
Mm.
Is that unique to the Dominican Republic, or is it probably throughout the Caribbean and possibly Asia and Africa?
Possibly, it's possible, Ron. And I didn't even think, I wouldn't have even thought. You know, I work as a police officer in New York. I retired as a police officer in New York 2 years ago. And I have a bunch of cops that I work with, some of which came from Dominican Republic. And that's where I heard it from. You know, they were born and raised in Dominican Republic. And it turned into one of these conversations in the locker room, like, ooh, child, let me tell you what the scam is with the girls in Dominican Republic. And I'm in the locker room like, oh yeah, tell me, this is juicy stuff. And then she just lets it rip. And she's like, yeah, you know, a lot of those girls in Dominican Republic, their mothers are grooming them to meet American men and figure out a way to get pregnant so that your child can have citizenship. Because once your child has citizenship in New York, it's a game changer, you know, here in the United States, being pregnant and delivering a baby here. You know, you don't get anything out of it because a lot of the girls are not citizens here, but the children are considered a citizen once they're born in the United States, and they get welfare and all kind of stuff, governmental assistance. And I said, oh wow, I thought it was insane when she was saying it to me, but then I started hearing it more and more, and I said, wow, very interesting.
I know it's common for Nigeria. I was gonna say, I know it's common in Nigerian culture. As someone that's been asked to marry someone in Nigeria to bring him here. So that's why as I'm reading the book, it's just so familiar because it's just something, it's almost like you can't blame them either, you know, because it's kind of like, well, how do you escape? You know, how do you enter into this society if you can't just get on a plane, you know, if you can't get citizenship, it's like, what other avenue is there, you know? So I know it's very usual in Nigerian culture. It's not a foreign concept.
You know, it's just so good having these voices because, you know, I guess as I don't, seeing the way that this country treats its own Black citizens, I can't imagine another Black person just salivating to come here. But I see what y'all are saying, and I totally get it, and I just love having, especially Simone, these voices that kind of, to be quite frank, like cut through my righteousness, right? Because I'm always trying to, or I feel like I'm always trying to operate with the mindset of this level of the highest rights. How righteous can I operate with my thoughts? And when I come to this book club and I hear, you know, Simone, who actually, you know, has a more ear to the actual gossip, the actual tea than I do, and I hear Obi, who has her experiences, it's really just kind of, it brings me to a sense of grayness, where nothing is Black or white, it's all gray, right? So it's so interesting how this story of America is being sold to folk who aren't from here, and people who are from here know that this is not an easy place to live. You know, this is a hard place to live, especially if you are Black, especially if you don't speak the language. So this is so fascinating to me. But does anyone else have any other kind of thoughts?
I do. Yeah. Oops, sorry. Who did I just?
And then Lydia, and then Tony.
Okay. You know, definitely, Brandon. You know, as a first generation Haitian American, like the concept of America is definitely glorified in the Caribbean or just other countries, and then you get here and you're like, oh damn. And I think that's highlighted in the book. But I think that there's a double narrative in terms of the text, and I think that Cruz might be highlighting that there, and and we'll know more as we get in, because yes, Anna's mom, or their mom, Teresa Anna's mom, is looking for this sense of opportunities for her children, right? Like, I think Willie mentioned that, right? Like, Anna's mom is seeing, okay, this marriage as a way for them to get more, right? Like, and she says very explicitly to Anna, like, when she's giving her these instructions on like what to do when you get married, this is how you take care of your husband, cut his nails, and make sure he wants for nothing, and I will come as I will get there, I will come as soon as you're ready for me, right? Like, she's giving these instructions as a way for her to even make it to America as well. She's seeing this marriage as a place and space for opportunities for Anna and her family. But I also think there's another narrative there, because we don't want to paint single narratives of countries or people who are in countries, because Teresa kind of rejects that, right? And her mom is like, oh, fine, she's lost, right? I'm gonna just focus on Anna now, because Teresa's like, no, I there's this guy right here I love. She gets pregnant. She kind of rejects this notion that her mom is trying to feed her, in terms of, you need to get married and connect to someone in America so you can have a better life. And Teresa's like, based on what I can see so far, Teresa's like, no. So I feel like there are two narratives going on in the story that I think that Cruz is shining a light on. That there's this one misperception of what marriage can do in terms of creating false opportunities in America, right? Because Anna's even like, whoa, it snows here? Like, whoa, wait a second. Like, this is not exactly what I expected, right? So this false perception of what America can bring. But I also think that with Teresa's character kind of rejecting these ideas that her mom is trying to place on her. So I think there are multiple stories in there.
Mm-hmm. Tony, I want you to chime in, and then I want to circle back.
I wanted to just echo Lydia's point that there is this, a projected image of the United States abroad, all over the world, all over the global South, for example, right? And so this is the idea that people are working with when they do decide to marry people from the United States, or people who have left their country and come to the United States, right? They come as what are called Bintus, right? So people who have been to the United States, and they come back with all of this stuff, right? So he acts like he's this big shot. And so this is the image that he sells to Ana and her family, right? And I think it's really important that Teresa chooses a very different path, one that she actually chooses for herself. And I mean, I've lived in Haiti and, in West Africa. So I've seen all of this stuff. I've also seen people from Europe and the United States come there actually looking for people to marry there as well. So it goes back, it's actually it's a two-way street.
It's interesting that I want to talk about this more. Let's dive into this. Like, what do y'all think about that? Like, because Juan, his name was Juan, right? Or was it Jose? It was Juan. Juan, in some sense, not for nothing, he does represent America.
Right.
You
May I
know,
just say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Jan.
Hi, I'm Jan. I just want to say that what Lydia said, I see that twofold, and I think that you have that dutiful daughter, and that's going to abide by her mother's wishes to do what she wants, and yet you have that daughter who's going to be that independent. And as you said, Tony, I believe, when you said about this idea of America, we know that there have been men throughout the world. They go to Thailand, they go to different places to find these dutiful women that are going to take care of what they need. And I'm hoping I'm not making a general statement, but sometimes you have to think about Why is it that some people say, oh, they're really good wives, they're really this? Because they're catering to what is expected of that wife. So I just wanted to say that.
And you know what, I'm glad you said that, because like, think about this, y'all, in the sense like Juan represents America in the sense that he is satisfying this, he's really just like a drunken kind of BSer, right? He claims he has a restaurant in Santo Domingo, but then we see the restaurant and it's literally like a pop-up shack, you know? He claims like he's all these things, you know, in America, but really he's standing out line like on 34th Street looking for a job. You know, he claims these things that he can't actually deliver. In another sense, that is the American dream, you know, a whole bunch of broken promises, right? So in that sense, like, you know, I hear y'all what you're saying about Teresa, but I'm gonna have to disagree because, you know, I think Teresa may have been better off if she would have not fallen in love, you know, and gotten in trouble, as they say. And she has the baby and she has to watch she has to watch the arrangement. She has to watch her little sister go and fulfill bigger dreams for her mother. And, you know, I thought about that a lot, not only for Teresa, but I think we leave her boyfriend behind. What did they call him? El Guardia. We leave him behind. You know why? Because the men who can't provide get left behind. They get left behind. You know, I think on, what page is this? It's page 38, 39. There's a line that says, there's a place for Papa and for Teresa and the baby if she is ever willing to leave El Gadia behind, right? So we get this sense of like the women without child, right? Don't matter how broke they are, as long as you are without child, right? You can have a better life. But the men, it's all over for them if they're not able to either at least present a facade or at least present something, some source. It's completely over for them. They get left behind. Like, this is, it goes very deep. I want to hear a lot of y'all thoughts. So go ahead and chime in. Like, what do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about this idea of women without children being this sanctified, holy sanctified spirit? They are literally can go off and save the entire family, but the minute you have a baby, it's over for you. You get left behind. What do y'all think about that?
I see OB's hand is raised. OB?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna make a comment about before that question was posed. So I
Yeah,
can.
Right. That's cool.
That's cool as in like go ahead, or should I
go
just?
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh,
I think go ahead. Yep.
Then anybody else can chime in after.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, as some participants were just talking about how like the dream that, or how America is sold overseas. And I was just wondering, is it really a bad thing? Like, is it really bad for women to want to come to America? Because especially when you were dealing with certain countries or islands and lack of opportunities, you know, it's like, is the question, should we stay and be content, or should we go somewhere else and seek something better? That's all.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jan.
I'd like to respond to that. I think that it has to be on your terms. And I understand that you're saying that what's wrong with wanting more, but at what cost does that wanting more mean? What does it mean for her as a person? Is she doing it for her, or is she doing it for the family? Now, I understand that she is doing it for the family, but would she ever be able to return if she decided that this didn't work out for her? Would she now still be rejected by her family? And I think that all women, or anyone who decides to come to America, they're in this dream, believing that America is offering this land of opportunity, but it's just as difficult. So when you decide to make that leap to come to a strange place, what sacrifices will you have to give? We know when children run away from homes, what happens. So this is almost like, to me, as though she's being I won't say discarded, but that she's running away, but she doesn't know what she's running to. And so I think that is really a big thing for me. So I hear what you're saying, that, yes, you want that better opportunity. Yes, you want that. But you have to have some type of, and sometimes you might just have to do it. But she knows nothing. She knows no one. And that's the scary part.
And
I
her
feel like
autonomy,
I
is completely compromised.
mhm.
Like that's the
Willie and Obi.
No, I was going to say that it's no matter where you go, or no, even if she was to stay in Dominican Republic, right? She would still have it's like no matter where you go, you're gonna have issues, whether it's in your homeland, whether it's in a foreign land. So yes, if you can say it's up to her to make that decision, but whatever decision she makes, you're going to run into issues in both places. So I'm only saying that, and I think as I'm reading this, I'm also keeping in mind, like Nigerian culture and the poverty and lack of opportunities that exist in certain countries, and being more understandable of why women do what they do to get out of certain situations. And I don't think it's more so like coming to America because with this false idea that things are going to get better, but it's more so just seeking like I said before, like seeking something more. Not that everything is going to be like roses and sunshine, but saying that, okay, this here isn't working for me, so I'm going to move here. That's all I'm saying.
Willie, what
I don't think she even makes that decision herself. It's her mother who makes that decision for her because she's only 15. Mm-hmm.
I agree with Tony. I was going to say, it's not like she is making that decision herself. It's her mother making it, like, really imposing and making that decision for her. So, she really doesn't have any autonomy in that. It's not like the mother is saying, you know what, this is my dream and I'm gonna hook up. She's probably closer in age with Juan than Anna is, so but she was like she didn't have the opportunity, like her ship had sailed, so she was like, well, this one right here is gonna get it.
Well, oh man, I totally agree with you. But at the same time, I gotta propose this question, especially for the parents in the house. Shit. Like, if you're not guiding your child, who is? Do you see what
exactly? Good point.
And her life was she was living in poverty, and she was living a hard life, at least the way it was described as the work that her brothers and father did. They were living a very hard life in Dominican Republic. So,
yeah.
But she comes here and she's still living a hard life. But.
Yeah, I was thinking there's also an experience where this neighbor and that neighbor, like comes to New York and they send money home every month. Like, I think that's also an immigrant experience, that the people who do go, there's a money order every month that comes back. And so there is a sense that even if people are not, rich or something, they are doing better. There's a concrete way that's expressed by the money that people send home. And that's like all over the world, people immigrating and working really hard, but there's always this money that gets sent home. So I think that is what makes people feel like there's something there, like there's some reason to leave and go to this other place, because people who have done it before, and there's always the cousins and the aunts and the uncles who have done it before, it does work. People do send money home, so there is something to that.
Miss Sherry, you were going to say something. Do you mind chiming in?
Yeah, for me, I'm thinking about, there's a show, I think it's called What Would You Do? This 11-year-old child has been groomed from the time that she's probably old enough to walk, that she's going to help the family get out of poverty. She's going to make a better life for the family. So what would you do? Now she's a child, so she's gonna think, oh yeah, if I go, I could send things back to mom and dad and the family and make things better, not understanding that things were probably just as bad there as they were in her homeland. But it's a decision. What would you do if you've been taught to that you're going to be the lifesaver for the family? What would you do?
We've been around the military for many, many, many years, like 30, 40 years, and we see a lot of that. And mostly it's women from other countries that are, you know, and it's Army, Air Force, all the different services that when they're deployed to these different countries, you know, a lot of them do marry, you know, women from these other countries, and they end up coming here and probably do, like someone else said, sending stuff back to their family in the country that they're in.
I mean, so what do we feel about, because I mean, to be quite, I mean, I hear you, Willie. I hear you when you're talking about how mom is kind of forcing her, honestly, forcing her into this marriage. I mean, for Christ's sake, isn't she like in a random Easter dress? Like she's not even, it's not a real ceremony. She's in a weird dress. It doesn't fit. Everything about it does not fit, including the dress. Everything is weird about it, right? However, like.
That makes it symbolic, right, Brenda?
Right, okay. But however, like what I was saying when we started the conversation, that idea of marriage being magic, it being something that can transform not only your life, but your whole family's life. And you know, you can tell they're very poor. She doesn't say they're very poor. She never says it, but she says things like, we only have one photograph together. We have one photograph together in the whole house. You know, she says things like, none of us will ever eat at a restaurant together. She says things like that to let you know they're poor, but it doesn't, I think there's a difference between being poor and struggling. I think rich people can struggle. Like, I think wealthy people can struggle. I don't know if they're struggling. It seems like they have their family. It seems like they have themselves, but they just don't have what she calls money and papers, right? This whole conversation around the money and the papers, this is all what it's coming down to at the end of the day, is money and papers. So I don't know. What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about like that idea of very, because I think she's 15 and he's 32, right?
Yeah.
Get married. Like, what do y'all think about
No,
that?
Yahada is making a really great point in the chat, and that is the facade of people who travel abroad. Sometimes they take out loans, they just present themselves as doing much better than they are when they go home because so much is expected of them. There's this really great film by Usman Semben called The Money Order, where he sends money back to his family religiously, but he is a street sweeper. He's like literally sweeping shit out of the street in France, right? And this is what so many people who come here do, but the people back home never know this because all they see is what they present when they go home. And when
I think that's the point of the
home,
story.
it is horrible. That looks like a really horrible place to live in New York. I would not want to live there.
Well, I think that's the point, right? And Tony, it's much different than being in a very privileged space in Michigan. You got trees and there's grass and you have a car. It's very different in New York, right? Like what he's talking about actually is not the worst that I've heard of or that I have seen. But
I lived in New York too. Yeah, I grew up in New York, so I know there too.
Okay, so furthermore, like that's not even the I think that makes sense to me. Like getting out and doing what you got to do to send money back to your family, that makes sense to me. What is very curious and what I'm wondering and what y'all think about is kind of the more like gender roles, if you will, like how I was talking about earlier. There's a 15-year-old girl involved in a 32-year-old man, a grown-ass man with gray hairs, and they're getting married and they have sex and then he leaves to go get cigarettes. I'm talking about the role that El Gaudia gets to play. Like he birthed a whole child with Teresa, and it doesn't matter. He's gonna get left behind when she comes to America because he ain't got it, or at least he's not faking like he got it like that. Like, what do y'all think about that when we're talking about marriage, when we're talking about families, the stereotypical roles that male and female play? Like, what do y'all think about how that's kind of laid out in this story?
I
Does that
think
make sense?
I think yeah. I wanted to speak to what you were saying, Brandon, because talking about like that whole like hyper masculinity and that machismo, and that's kind of like, if you're not that in the novel, like that's what the mother's frowning down upon. Like you can hear in the tone that she speaks about her husband and Teresa's baby daddy, and even Gabriel, almost, right? It's like they're often like pushed to the side, where these people with these facades, you know, are really glorified, like Juan. And you know, I mean, and you get to see a little bit of Juan's experience and how lonely that is, right, coming to America and everything. But yeah, like being not asserting your masculinity is definitely something that's frowned down upon and looked at as weak.
I think there's this sentence where she says that she says, and now I belong to him. And it just makes me think of how, well, she's young, so she doesn't know anything about male, like basically what a relationship entails, you know? So it's almost as though like she doesn't know through experience, so she only knows what she sees. And even to say like, and now I belong to him, it just kind of fits into that stereotype of, once you get married, it's almost like you lose, I would say stereotype, but like women kind of lose their sense of self, right? Or you feel as though you belong to the person that you are married to. So therefore, anything that they want, you do, because it's almost like that person has taken ownership over you. So I think that Cruz, as I'm reading it, she does kind of play into, or the way she does kind of play into the stereotypes of young women and older men and how they respond to each other.
Yeah.
I just want to add on, and I mean, think about what it's doing for his ego. I've got me a young bride now.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a young woman. I will be able, whether he wants children or not, but I get to show her off. No, she may not be the most beautiful thing, but look who she is. She's with me, who doesn't have much. So that's also building up his ego in some kind of way.
Yes.
I just want to go back to
Yes.
something that Obi said.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. J. I'm
Talking
sorry.
about she didn't have a lot of experiences. She didn't, but yet she felt some kind of way about Gabriel, you know, and, you know, they had the when they went swimming together, you know, and you could just tell that she had desire for him. And I thought she was going to act on it, but she didn't. So she doesn't really have experience, but then again, she kind of does. And she knows the feeling of being into someone. With Gabrielle, that's what I was thinking. She wasn't experienced, but she sort of knew not to go past that point with Gabrielle when they were at the pool.
Yes. I mean, but okay. So what do you think about that? Because, like, to me, I read that as that was, she already knew Juan had already proposed. She had already knew she was leaving. You know, so what do y'all think about that? Do you think she really did? Was she really feeling Gabrielle, or was it almost like she just knew she wasn't feeling Juan, and so anybody else was kind of a distraction? That's kind of how I felt about Gabriel in that situation. I think she liked him enough, but I also think he was just a distraction from the person she really didn't like. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, we have to remember, too, that she's a 15-year-old girl and she hasn't had much experience.
Yeah.
So I think by Gabriel giving her that attention that wasn't overbearing like Juan, like, you're going to be mine. You know, Juan was that forceful. Whereas Gabriel, I think that he really liked her. And I think that she enjoyed maybe the courtship can I say that, courtship, the friendship, or what was developing between them, whereas Juan was automatically going to be in control. So I think that if we all think about when we were 15, you know, somebody gave you some attention, you were like, oh, okay, but you didn't want the older men looking at you and saying anything. You'd be like, oh my God, he's creeping me out, okay? But that someone who was closer to your age, it sort of built you up a little bit.
I think it's really like Ron. I think she really liked Gabriel, and she's the one who kisses him. He doesn't kiss her. He's actually quite respectful of her, and so I think and I think Willie's making a really great point about toxic masculinity. He doesn't seem to possess that. He seems to actually respect her as a person. But yeah, I think her feelings for Gabriel are genuine.
I think it speaks to like what we all feel, no matter what age, where we have our desires and then also kind of what we desire and what we are obligated to do, you know. And I think that's all. And I think just kind of introducing that relationship with her and Gabriel was to show us, you know, like the stark contrast between those two things. And it just kind of made me remember just a conversation I was having today, just as far as sometimes in relationships, we don't necessarily end up with the person that, how can I say this without sounding offensive? It's like, it's like sometimes we don't end up marrying the person who we lust for. You know, we end up marrying the person who kind of can take care of us or kind of fits the type of life that we want to live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we kind of,
yeah, marriage is a contract at the end of the day. Like, so I mean,
and some people kind of look, I mean, I think that some people kind of look at that, and we see these kind of played out in movies all the time, right? Where you don't end up with the poor person who you really, really desire, but you end up marrying the guy who's wealthy or can provide a certain type of life for you that the one that you desire couldn't. And I think
the difference between that is, though, Juan wasn't wealthy. He was putting on the facade. Ron, you were going to say something that before we cut you off.
No, I was just pointing to someone who wanted to speak.
Was it Obi?
Yes.
Oh, I'm done.
Cool.
Does anyone else want to chime in? This is such a great conversation. I'm just literally like loving I'm savoring every moment. Because there were some other like points that I thought were, and I don't want to jump ahead, and I'm really trying not to, but there were some other points made early on that I thought were really interesting that I kind of highlighted. Like, you know, I really, and I understand that this is an unpopular opinion, right? But I really respect Mama. Like, I really fuck with her, like, a lot. And I know, I get it, you know, on the outside looking in, she looks like this almost like wolf who is like pushing the cub, like, out of the nest. I don't even know if cubs have nests, but you know what I'm saying? Like, pushing the baby away into this life that she may not even be ready for. But at the same time, there's this intense, like, urge for Ana to be equal parts like wife and warrior. You know, she says like, cook him food, but like make sure he sends us money. You know, she says things like that really make me invested in her intentions. What do y'all think about that? Like, maybe I'm bugging, but I really, really think that Mama is, you know, the most trustworthy character so far. Even though she is, you know, pushed her 11-year-old to 15-year-old daughter to getting married to this grown man. Like, what do y'all think about that?
excluding the cultural time and the period for that 1964 or whatever, I say it's just a mild form of, it's a dressed up form of prostitution, I feel. I have no love for mama because I just think she was thinking about, you know, why couldn't mom do something to make more money, bring more money in? You know, to me, it was just, again, a form of prostitution, prostituting her daughter.
And you asked, Brent, you asked us early as parents, some of us who are mothers, you know, are you pushing your kids in that? You're pushing, well, I would hope that you're pushing your kids, but as someone said, but you're pushing them to get something back. When you raise children, you raise them to, yes, want more than what you have, but not making sure that is beneficial for me. Now, I know culturally that we have always taken care of our ancestors, our grandparents, our that. But again, and I know age may not have a lot to do with it with some people, but to me, age is something. This young lady has not, I'm not saying she has to live, but I don't know how to explain it. Maybe somebody can help me out.
Help her out, y'all. What do y'all think? Do some of y'all agree with me? Do y'all disagree with me? Like Miss Jan?
Barbara, I think Barbara had a hand raised.
Oh, yes.
Hi. I understand what you're saying, Jan. I'm not exactly sure if I can help you out, but I do understand what you're saying. I did pick out a passage from, or rather just a sentence from the book. It's on page 11, and it says, "Mama has lived long enough to learn a man doesn't know what he thinks until a woman makes him think it." She's a woman, I think Mama is a woman that is very knowledgeable, I would say. She's very knowledgeable, and she's kind of in a sort of way been there, done that type of woman. I understand someone else had mentioned something about prostituting their daughter. I believe it was Miss Sherry, I'm not exactly sure. I could understand how your viewpoint with that, but I guess what I'm trying to say is she's been there, so she says, okay, this is our life, this is what it is. I'm going to show you that this is not what you have to accept or be. Now, Teresa was just, she opened her legs. I mean, there's a phrase, and I'm not exactly sure how to interpret it in English, but I'm thinking about it in another language, so I don't know how to like say it, but it's like you've already opened your legs, you're out there, you're not valuable anymore. So I'm going to be done with you. That's the best way that I can interpret what I'm trying to say. But
why buy the cow?
Anna,
You can have the milk.
yeah, Anna is now saying is pure. I would say, let's just say pure, and whatever way that you can get us, not just you, us, we as a family out of our situation, then you're going to be that person for us. You're going to be that scapegoat. Okay, you're going to be doing it for us. I do know that it's bad the way she's doing it. However, culturally, what if she doesn't know any better? What if she's using that opportunity to move forward, to say, you know what, this is the only way out. Also, I hate to say, like Obi was saying, how to not to be like a disgraceful way or term. No, people do get married for all the wrong reasons. They might see it as a beautiful picture, but that's not who they really want to marry. They want to marry the poor dude, like Teresa, right? Like the poor dude that doesn't have nothing, or Iran. That's one of the things. Like you see that you want a different type of love, but you know what? This is going to be better for me or my family or whatever the circumstance may be. I know that it's wrong what the mom is doing, but she's also showing her own knowledge. she's saying, don't fall for this. You ask for what you want. You get money, and you get money for us, and you get money for yourself. Like, she's putting that, like, I hate to sound like that, like, oh, this is what a woman should be like and feel like, but she's protecting her. She's doing like the womanhood thing. Like, this is how a woman should be. Protect yourself from these men. That's how I feel. Although I know what Ms. Sherry was saying about, you know, her and prostituting her daughter. I get that. I see 100% how you're feeling about that. But this is the only way the mom knows how to educate her and to make it better for everybody else.
Obi and then Tony.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
You said the mom is like, get money. It was like, the mom sounds like a pimp, like she does. But on the other hand,
What was that? I'm sorry, Obi, I didn't hear you.
I said the last thing you mentioned, like, the mom is like, get money for me, get money for the family, and she sounds like a pimp. But I kind of rock with the mom too, because it's almost like someone, like you said too, it's almost like she's a victim to a male dominated society. I mean, she is, you know, so it's like, on one hand, she's problematic, but on the other hand, she's like you said, this is what it is, right? So this is what it is. Let me show you to the best of my ability how to maneuver. And there's a part in the book where she even kind of scolds Anna when she's hiding and she's like doing nothing in the bushes, right? And asks her like, okay, are you going to work or are you going to be lazy? You know, so it's like, how much fault can you really lay on someone who, like I said, who you can kind of see as a victim of this society in which she lives, but then also trying to raise a daughter within that same society? You know, it's like, how much slack can you really cut her?
Oh, so are you saying that the mother, and this is what I'm hearing Barbara saying, that the mother's a victim of her own circumstances, and I don't mean to sound kind of elitist, but that this is the only life she knows, and so she wants her daughter a little bit more. Is that what you're saying? Even though
I'm saying that this is the life, this is the society that she grew up in, right? So therefore, she knows what it is. So, and I feel like that's why I don't really like. I don't want to like come down really hard on her, because it's like how.
Yeah, so you're saying that she's a victim of her own upbringing, her own cultural whatever, and now she's trying to pass on something else to her daughter. Is that? I mean,
yeah, I mean, she's
okay.
It's how can I word this? It's like, if you grew up in a male-dominated society, right, where there are certain roles that are laid out for men and for women, you know, and then you know that according to, in this society, your daughter can only go so far, right? So as a mom, you equip if you want your daughter to go further, you might say, okay, she's not going down this road, I'm gonna take her over here. You know, they're both equally problematic, but you're just kind of gauging which one, according to you, is best. And we're judging it like they're both bad, you know? So that's all I'm saying is like, I can't really like kind of throw the mom under the bus because she's trying to do, or she thinks she's doing what's best according to what she has and what she knows, which is not good. But what can you, it's like she doesn't have exposure to like anything else. Right. She only sees what she grew up in and raising her child according to that. That's what I was trying to say.
Right. I agree with OB.
Yeah, I understand now. That's clear. Okay.
And that's why I said.
Hold on, Miss Lydia. I'm sorry. Tony had her hand up for a minute.
Oh,
and then we can go right back.
Yeah, thanks. I wonder if we can distinguish between culture and circumstance, right? Because I don't think it's cultural, the kinds of decisions that her mother is making. I think it actually goes against the culture because family is extremely important. I mean, if you listen to or if you read Anna's thoughts, she misses her family so much, right? And the reason that her mother is pushing her out is for the family. So I think that they had a choice, that she would actually keep them with her, that she would actually keep Anna with her. But because of the way that the world has shaped up, not going into capitalism and all this other stuff, they don't actually, her mother actually doesn't have a choice. So I wouldn't call it, I would be careful about calling this culture, because it's not culture. It's actually just a fact of living in the 20th century and being a person of color, right? From the global South.
Miss Lydia, what were you were just chiming in?
I mean, I was saying initially when I saw, Mama doesn't care about Anna, she wants money. At first I was like, yeah. But then I did think about what Obi was saying in terms of being products of circumstance, right? And, I do, to your point, Tony, I wonder about, how we define culture, right? Like, what is it that creates like your cultural norms, right? Like outside of like heritage, right? Like I wonder about what becomes part of who you are and what you know based on what you see, right? And I also think about like you don't know what you don't know, right? And so when I think about Anna's mom, and yeah, there are always choices, right? We always have options, right? And those may be seen from the outside looking in, but you may not realize that you have choices based on what you see in front of you, right? And so, I don't know if I have enough information to make a determination around how fit Anna's mom is as a mom, given possibly her being a product of her circumstances and not being able to see. Like I wonder if she was able to clearly see what the choices were in front of her for her family and for her children, would she possibly choose an alternate route if that alternate route was clearly defined for her, right? I wonder about that.
Yeah. Does anyone, maybe someone who hasn't said anything yet, want to chime in on anything, but more specifically on kind of what we're talking about right now?
No, I have something to add though. Isn't this the narrative of how generations change their status? That you marry out your daughters, and your daughters then have an elevated life, and their children will have a better life. And then those children, if you have daughters, this is thinking in a 1900s kind of way, but you married your way to quote unquote a little bit of privilege, that regardless of race, that women were viewed as this commodity that raises the family out of poverty over generations.
Yes.
So she might not be able to do it during her generation, but she has married up, her children will have more opportunities, and so on and so forth. Early on, I said, I think someone had introduced this as taking place uniquely in the Dominican Republic. And it really takes place wherever poor people are. I'm sure Irish people can tell you equal stories, Nigerians, Puerto Ricans, Japanese. I feel like this is sadly the way people for many years and generations got out of poverty, that they didn't work themselves out of poverty, they married their way out of poverty.
I mean, yes, that's kind of why when I say that Mama is the most trustworthy character, that's what I'm talking about, right? Because she is the one who understands that logic that Ron just laid out. You see what I'm saying? Like, she is the only person in the family who is thinking ahead, right? The father's thinking about when we see him with his rifle, right? He's very a present person, thinking about protecting what is here right now. Whereas Mama, she is thinking about the future, right? She is thinking about the ways not only to get Ana out of poverty, but also to raise all of their statuses. But I do want to, Rana, and I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that, what do y'all think about this? Because I don't think that this story is, without, it's not heavily barred on, but I don't believe that the story is without its race and colorism. Even in the first few pages that we've read, we know the only reason that Ana is the protagonist is because she has green eyes. Can I get an amen? You see what I'm saying? So this story isn't without its racial statuses, right? It's colorism. Teresa has the brown eyes. So Mama kind of gave up on her, right? Ana doesn't. Ana has the green eyes. And what does she tell her? She tells her, make sure you write him about green so he remembers the colors of your eyes. Do y'all see what I'm saying, or am I bugging? Because that's how I feel. Do I think that she thought having a daughter and keeping her pure would have elevated them? Sure. But do I think that Mama thought that having a daughter, keeping her pure, and a daughter with green eyes would surely elevate them? Absolutely.
Lottery ticket.
Yep.
There's also a comment in the book about staying out of the sun, so you don't get too dark.
Which is trying to do if you ever been to DR. It's very difficult to stay out of the sun.
Believe it or not, my mother used to say to me, as though if I stayed out the sun, I would get much lighter than I am now. So.
That's funny you say that, Ron. My mother used to say, "Oh, don't go in that sun, girl. You know you're gonna be dark as whatever." But you'd be like, "Hey, I'm going out there." But yeah, exactly.
I don't know. If you think about it, Americans, we do weird things too. Like we grew little girls from the time they're old enough to know what a wedding is. They want to get married.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be so careful about that. If you think back, that's all we ever played: getting married and dressing dolls up to get married. We're conditioned. I don't know now how things are, but we were conditioning our kids to want to get married. And that may not be for everyone.
You were conditioning your daughters to get married.
Yes.
Yeah. Not your kid, not the boys.
Not the mouths, right.
But your daughters to get married. I was having a conversation with a friend, and this is kind of off topic, but on topic, about how even now women take men's names. Even after all of these years, women are still doing these things that seem so odd that you would consider yourself equal, if not better than your spouse, but you still want to take his or her name. And I just find that so odd. Yeah. And I've always found it odd.
I mean, have you ever seen a man take a woman's name?
I have. I just talking to a friend of mine earlier, and they took each other's names. They hyphenated, and they both took their names.
Is that the same? Is a hyphenated the same as taking someone else's name, though, Ron?
It's not. But why take anybody's name? Period. Like, why take somebody's name? Why take the man's name?
To give up her identity. That's why. It's the woman that needs to give up her identity in order to be the married one, right? The man ain't looking for that. The man ain't never been looking for that.
But I was gonna say, but doesn't that also call into question is our identity attached to our name? And just because we give up our last name, does that mean that we are giving up a piece of our identity?
But why don't we have this practice for men?
Yeah, Ron. Can Margaret Bristow.
Margaret, yes, speak, Margaret.
Yes, I'm enjoying the conversation. I am going to read the book. This, Ron, you brought up something that has bothered me. It's being used, and it says to me something about the status of how we view our status in society. And it's with this ubiquitous use of "you guys." And right. And I talked about it today with a friend. I'm saying we don't argue about people coming in a room saying all women, and then make a comment and say, "You guys, the pizza's here," and there's not a man at all in the room.
That is true.
You would not do that, Ron, with a bunch of men, all men, and say, girls, the pizza's ready. But we accept it without even questioning it. The "you guys," it's acceptable.
Yes.
Yeah, and that says something about subconsciously about the status we're still giving men. You know, this invisibility is fine, you know, in terms of female, because you use "you guys." You know, so I mean, to me, it still says something about our view of men in society. That status is still there.
Thank you, Margaret, for dragging me in my own book club. I appreciate it.
Oh, you say it wrong. You say "you guys."
That's true, though. That's totally true.
But to Ron's credit, that's a language thing. In the French language and the Spanish language, the formal is the main, right?
Right, but even within language, the mere fact that we have masculine as the norm,
yes,
is based on patriarchy.
Yes.
So what do y'all, oh, not Haitian Creole, okay, Tony? That's very true, not Haitian Creole, which is also kind of a newer language in the sense though, right? It's not English. English is a very, I don't know how I feel about that. I see what you're saying, Dr. Margaret, I see what you're saying, but sometimes I think that, like, so what are we going to do? Go back and change language that have been around, the language like norms that have been around for years and years and years? Like, I don't know how I feel about that in this sense, you know, because it feels a little, I don't know. But what do y'all think about this? What do y'all think about this? We got 15 minutes left. What do y'all think about this? Like, the idea in this first kind of section that we've read, like, there are some heavy gender norms. There are some heavy, desperate clings to like marriage and get us out of here, help, SOS type of vibe. But what do y'all think about that idea that there's a, I'm trying to find it in the text. There's a point, here it is. There's a point when the Ruiz brothers are all at the house and they're playing their instruments and they're singing and they're drunk, and that's kind of like what they do from the time Ana is 11 to the time she's 15. They come to the house and they do these like shows, I guess. Like, this isn't, I mean, it's not like he's known Ana for 4 years before he marries her. At least he's known of her. He's been coming to her house, drinking free beer, you know, putting on these shows. Like, so in some sense, he was trying to, you know, court her in that sense. So like, what do y'all think about that? Like, do y'all think that, I know we talked a lot about mama and prostitution and maybe it being, but like, what do y'all think about that? Like, do y'all think that was kind of courtship enough for him and his brothers to pull up at the house, drink some beers, have some good rah-rahs with the pop, and do that for 4 years, and to be able to take the daughter away to America, knowing, because we're saying a lot of this thinking that the Ruiz brothers don't know right? What mama is doing. I think the Ruiz brothers are very savvy, and I think they know very well what mama is doing. Yes, Miss Sherry.
They also had their eye on the family property, the field or land, whatever. So, you know, really to me, they seem like some nobodies. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but they were looking at them also as a step up as far as getting their hands on that property, I felt.
Yes. What do y'all think about that? This is a two-way street. This isn't one poor family trying to like cling on to like some aristocrats, right? Like, I don't see it as that. I see this almost as if everybody is out for their own best interest. Do you know what I'm saying? Am I the only one that kind of sees it like that?
No, you're right. It looks very opportunistic for everybody involved. I feel like, except maybe for Anna. I feel like she's, you know, right now she's just the pawn being used for everybody's ambitions.
I agree, Anna Maria. Sorry, Miss Sherry. Go ahead.
Oh, you have to wonder about Juan. I mean, 4 years courting an 11-year-old. So is his game that weak? Does he not get a lot of attention from women? Is his mentality really low, childlike? Or is he afraid of a strong-willed woman maybe that he couldn't handle? So.
Exactly.
I agree with you.
I mean, she's the pawn.
I think it's all about that strong woman. He can dominate. He can be that man. So I definitely agree with you there.
Hold on though. He did. What was her name? She was like the top woman. Who?
The actress? Are you talking about the actress?
She was like an actress, but she really worked at the New Yorker, but she was like a very strong-willed woman, and Juan did game her. Juan did game her.
Well, I think her attitude towards Juan was like she was schlepping. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that he felt that he could never control her.
Right.
You know, she had her independence. He needed someone to build up his ego or his bravado, as someone said, earlier. Okay, so I really think that had something to do with it. I don't know.
I'm sorry, Willie, you were gonna pop in and say something.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I was just agreeing with Anna Marie, because it was like, kind of like when she gets to New York and her whole experience, and then she's kind of like tucked away in like the tower, like Rapunzel, like don't talk to anybody, stay in the house, and automatically upon coming to New York, her first thing is service. She has to clean the house, kill the chicken, and do all of that. So right away she's having to be dutiful and serving to Juan. So it was like, damn, like I left home to come here to be this.
And really her dreams were to have, what did she say, the nice perfumes and the nice clothes, and like that was kind of her dream, was to be in this very lavish lifestyle. But I do believe that's why I'm talking about when I'm talking about Mama is the most trill and the most authentic character, because she never said that. Mama said that make sure that he knows you are the type of woman who's not afraid to like gut a fish or grate a coconut. You know what I'm saying? Like Mama never said that it was going to be sweet. Mama was very clear. She said that it would be work. So this is just, I'm just so fascinated by the dream versus the reality, right? And who is clinging on to the dream in this story, and who is clinging on to the reality of the situation. Because Mama doesn't want Mama's dream isn't fancy perfumes and nice clothes. What is Mama's dream? Mama's dream is a concrete floor. Do y'all see what I'm saying?
And you have to remember too, but when you talk about the reality, Brandon, is that Mama keeps telling her, and kind of what she's been doing is just pretend. So it's like, so what is authentic? What is real?
Yes, that's true.
Because even when that whole scene when she says, it's like the wolf pushing the pup away, it was kind of like, okay, and then she busts out the cigarette, and that's what that imagery reminded me of, like a pimp too, right? Like talking like, well, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and kind of showing when daughter was like, you smoke, and it's like, yeah, she she has fully lived life, you
Yeah.
know. So there's a lot that Anna hasn't seen of her mother yet, and you know, and kind of like, and we get glimpses of that in the text when they talk about how like the father, right? The family cut Papa off and her off once they got together.
Yeah.
So it was like, but it doesn't go into like why, you know. So there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah. Well, she indicates, right, Willie, that the father has no backbone.
Yeah.
Right? She's
Yeah.
the strong one in that relationship. She's, she's the one with all those strategies.
Yeah, the gender roles are definitely flipped.
Yes.
And then she looks at the guys, like she even tells the daughter when she's like, you know, look at your brother when he before he gets to read, or when he gets to read, what you think is gonna happen to him? He's gonna be selling that fruit too and that meat on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it's like everybody has their kind of like position to play, and she's letting her know that from jump at 11 years old.
Well, what I'm saying from the parents in the room, can I get an amen from the parents in the room? But what I'm saying is, ain't that what you're supposed to do?
I don't know necessarily, Brandon, that like when you get that whole idea of like pretend and the reality of things, that you're looking at your child and say, this is gonna be the one right here to make me money. Like that's kind of warped, that thinking.
But I think generations have done that since Adam and Eve, that each generation looks at their daughters. It might change in maybe the past couple of generations, but prior to that, I'm sure that was the norm, to look at your daughter as a commodity.
Many people marry their children off, especially rich people, right? Rich people don't want their children married off to poor people. They want their children married off to a richer person, right? Someone who's even richer than they are. That's just the way it is. And they don't care. They don't give a shit if the person's a good person or not. You know, the idea is the dollar. So, I mean, I feel like good parents teach their children how to be able to stand on their own 2 feet and not need anybody. Right?
Fascinating. Anybody else have anything to say about
That's
that?
what I'm teaching my kids. I have a 25-year-old and a 27. I'm teaching them, you must stand on your own 2 feet. I will not be here forever. And I'd like to die knowing you can stand on your own 2 feet. You don't need anybody. Nobody has to take you in. Nobody has to give you shit. You can do it all on your own.
And we have to teach our males that as well. You don't need a woman.
No, I'm talking about my daughter and my son.
Okay, and I know I have a son, so I'm just like that.
No, you're right.
Yourself.
You're right. You cook for yourself. You clean for yourself. You do for yourself. You don't need anybody.
Right. Not saying that you don't want to have someone, but don't feel like you have to depend on them.
You don't need them.
That's
you know? You know, the person that you need is at your level. There's not like a need. There's a connection where you both really want to be together and you appreciate each other, but it's not a necessity.
But we know the heart wants what the heart wants.
Yes.
Or we know that other part wants what it wants, that lust. Okay.
So, Anna Marie, would you argue for Anna staying with Gabrielle, or?
I don't like either one, quite honestly.
Why? Because Gabrielle was good at keeping secrets? Is that why? He had the house, he had the whole job. Remember, he had the whole job with the Americans and taking care of their house, and no one else knew about it. And
yeah,
you got to be worrisome of somebody who is really good at keeping secrets. You know,
that sends off a lot of alarms as well, a lot of red lights.
Does anyone who hasn't said anything want to chime in? Or anyone who has continued. Such a powerful conversation. I think that, a lot of experiences. I still think, I'm sorry, I still think that Mama is doing the
Mama's
exactly
doing the best
I
she
think she's
can,
doing what she's
Brandon. I
supposed to
get
be
it.
doing.
I
I think
get
she's
that.
doing what she's supposed to be doing. I do.
I'm interested in seeing how her reaction is going to be when she gets here, you know, or if she gets here. I mean, I'm assuming she's going to come, but it'll be interesting to see like what she thinks of New York and America then.
Once the dream is stripped away and she sees the reality, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, isn't that sort of what marriage is, though? The dream versus the reality? I mean, I'm not against marriage, but, you know, you know, that little thing that was very annoying at one point, then it becomes such a major issue once you're married. I mean, okay.
Yep. All those little things.
What do y'all think about Teresa? Before we close out, I feel like she should get the last few words. What do y'all think about Teresa? Because honestly, I think she is, in the sense, the person who really epitomizes freedom, and that middle finger up, like, this is, I feel this, and so I'm going to act on it. Like, what do y'all think about her? Or do you think she let down the family?
No, Mama just couldn't do a thing with her. You could tell she's probably a wild child. And Mom couldn't rescue her and mold her the way she wanted to. So therefore, Anna was the next hope for the family.
Yeah.
No, but also I think Teresa was jealous of Anna. You know, I noticed a little distinct thread of jealousy as Anna was leaving, going away with Juan.
Yep, me too. But to be honest with you, I think because Teresa was the fuller woman, she didn't have to hide her breasts, her flat chest, because she had breasts, you know, like she was the full woman, right? But at the same time, like you say, Miss Sherry, I think she was jealous, but to me that jealousy was only because, and this is maybe an unpopular opinion, but to me that jealousy only came after she had given up, right? What did you say, Miss Barbara? Open the legs, milk is gone, the cow, something like that. like that's where I think the jealousy comes from.
Mm-hmm. Why buy the cow when you're getting the milk for free?
I also think that, I mean, I look at Teresa and I think of maybe perhaps she's like her mother. In that respect, because that's why the mother can't tame her. Where, I don't mean tame her, you know what I'm saying, but I think because she can't control her like she can. So I think when the mother looks at Teresa, she sees a little bit of herself.
And remember, the dresses fit. Mama's dresses fit Teresa, right? So that's kind of another semblance of that, right?
Usually, right, when you can mirror yourself and you can see so much of yourself in somebody else, you usually dislike them, especially if you see things about yourself that you don't like, right? Those same kinds of things. So that's probably why, you know, she's pulling her hustle on poor Anna.
Yes. Yes.
I would love to talk about the way that it's written at some point, because I think it's really beautiful, the form that it takes, the way that it's narrated by Ana.
You know, Tony, listen, I'm glad you brought that up, because I got a little bit of beef actually with the way that it is structured, just because, I mean, am I the only one? But, you know, where I was taught, the speaker has dialogue quotes. You know who is speaking because they have the quote.
Yeah, I love that she doesn't respect that. I love that. It's just like you're just in there with her, in her head, and just, you know, just there.
I'm listening to it, Brandon. So it's even more difficult for me. I'm trying to figure out who's talking, why is she talking for that person? It's really odd. But
that's interesting. I love that about
it. Nice.
I want to say I agree with you, Tony. I think she sort of does that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because she wants you to come into the, you know,
Yeah,
okay,
you gotta be there with her all the way. Yeah.
you are Anna right now. You are Anna. This is what you're saying. So yeah, I didn't even notice that, but until you said that. But yeah.
This was a really wonderful start to this novel. I'm so excited about the next 4 weeks. Ron has put in the chat not only the next week for Dominicana, the next pages we're reading, which are 68 through 121-ish, but also if you can see, it's the bigger text that he sent through. That is Miss Barbara's book club. I went last night. It is so enthralling. They're reading Homemade Love by J. California Cooper. And if you can, either take a screenshot or maybe copy paste the dates and pages that that book club is meeting. If you haven't been, you definitely should check it out. It is a treat, a treat beyond treats.
It's Beyond Words is basically like the next 4 Tuesdays at 7, but you gotta register. So go to beyondwordsny.com. Barbara's chilling tonight, so I'm speaking on her behalf.
J. California Cooper, great writer, great writer.
She's still writing. Lord knows.
Words.
Can I just say that this is my first time coming. I've been signing up, and every time I turn around, I have something to do. And I just want to say, wow, I'm just really in awe, and I just thank all of you. It's just really nice to really be able to discuss things with people who are enjoying it, and we're just feeling free. So I just want to say thank you very much. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Keep coming. Keep
Yeah.
up. This was beautiful. Thank y'all so much. I'm so excited for next week and to hop into her New York phase of life.